Today we're going to look at different rules for citations. So you've done a lot of different citations for literature. You've looked at citations for Shakespeare. You've done citations for Sunrise Over Fallujah. And you may have done some nonfiction citations. Now you're going to be citing both from a book, from a magazine article, and from an internet source. And all of those can look very different. Even the journal citations that you have from person to person can look differently. So there's lots of different rules that we need to look at. First of all, remember a direct quote. We talked about this with Sunrise Over Fallujah, but I still see that there's a misconception. Often when we see the word quote, we think that it has to be someone saying something. And while we can have dialogue in a direct quote is anything that you take from a piece of writing and use word for word. The quotation marks are going to indicate to the reader that this is an exact copy of the text you are referencing. So inevitably, every time we do a research paper, I have somebody telling me they can't find a direct quote because there isn't anybody saying anything in the article. A quote is just anything that you pull word for word. It can have dialogue in it, but it does not have to. Just remember that as a little bit of a review. For a direct quote, when you're doing the parenthetical citation, any words that you use from a text word for word need to have quotation marks and a parenthetical citation. You need 2 of these in your paper. Quotation marks are going to close the quote. The parenthetical citation has the first word, possibly the first 2 words of the citation from your works cited page. It may be the author's last name. It may be the first word of the web page title. It may be the first word of the journal article. It depends on what your citation looks like. That is why you need to complete your works cited page before you begin writing. It is best to do your citations as you go through your paper instead of going back and trying to do the work later. Often when we don't do our works cited page first, we create more work for ourselves. That's why Mrs. Bray and I are asking you to have your works cited page done before you begin your rough draft. Remember to have a space between the name and the page number. There's no period or comma in between. And for some, there is no page number. Then you just use the first word of the citation. There is no page number on a website. A journal article may or may not have a page number depending on how you accessed it. And remember the period after the citation. So after the parentheses, you have your period. If you are paraphrasing, and you need to have 2 paraphrases. Paraphrases are always in your own words, but remember to keep the spirit of the author, so you don't want to twist their words or have them say something that they didn't. A paraphrase may be more than 1 sentence. The citation does not need to go at the end of every sentence, but at the end of the idea. MLA has made that okay. So you may have an entire paragraph that comes from one particular source, and it can go at the end of the paragraph if everything in that is paraphrased. If you have a little chunk paraphrased and then you have your ideas and then another chunk paraphrased, you would have 2 citations. So you want to be very careful. I would rather have you oversight than not cite enough. This becomes an issue, especially in institutions of higher learning, like if you go to Fox Valley Tech or if you go to a UW school or really any college. If you don't cite something correctly, you can end up getting a 0 on the paper. So you want to be very careful about your citations. It's a good habit to get into. And you still, of course, want to follow the rules for parenthetical citation with a period at the end. Your works cited page. Remember that works cited, that term, works cited, is at the top and it's centered. It's not underlined, it's not bigger or bolder, it's not in a different font. It's just centered as a title in your page. Your citations need to be in alphabetical order based on the first word in the citation. Check the alphabetical order. You need to use hanging indents. You need to have absolutely no extra spaces between citations. It's just double spaced throughout. Websites are not blue, they are not hyperlinked, so you need to go back and make them just black and white. If a website is incredibly long, sometimes when we copy and paste websites, they are super long. It's okay to shorten it to its base address. This is why MLA is now saying that you don't have to include the addresses, but Mrs. Bray and I want to see it. So you do need to include the website. MLA is saying you have to basically follow what your professor says. Mrs. Bray and I are your teachers and we want to see it. But if it's super, super long, you can just give us the base. I'm okay with hunting it down after that. Your works cited is going to look something like this. Note that you have your name, last name, and the page number. You're going to have a later page number in yours because it'll be the last page of your document. I have works cited in the center, not bigger, bolded, not underlined. I'm double spaced throughout. I have my hanging indents, and I'm alphabetized. Nelson, Poets, the. Actually, it's road that you would alphabetize by. Sorry about that. I have a book, and this was for a different research paper. I have 2 websites. when you look at that works cited sheet, this is how my citations would look in my paper. This is for a poetry paper where I had kids research a poet and analyze a poem, so a different version of a research paper. My citations would look like what you see on the left. So Nelson would go in the parentheses. In this case, I also have a book, so I could have a page number there. Poets, the road. That goes in your parenthetical citation. Now, as a reader, I'm able to look at your parenthetical citation, look at your works cited, and very easily find your citation. If you put in the Academy of American Poets into your parenthetical citation, it becomes really hard for me to find that citation. Now, when we only have 3 sources, yeah, it's a little easier. But as you get into more complex classes and write more complex things, you're going to have more in your works cited. So it makes it very easy to have it be the first word or words of your citation. So that's what goes in the parenthetical citation. Now, when you do not have a page number, like with a website, then you just have to put in the first word of the citation in the parenthetical citation. With your book source, you do have to have a page number. Your journal source may or may not have a page number. The big thing here is that you have to have your works cited page done first so that you know what your parenthetical citation is going to look like. Check your citations. EasyBib is not always correct. In a citation, it's okay to skip the information that you don't have, but you have to actually check EasyBib. When you do the automatic cite, it may be wrong. So if you auto-cite a website, 9 times out of 10, EasyBib misses stuff because not every website looks the same. So there's no just one easy way for EasyBib to create your citation. I have the 3 ways to do a citation here: a journal, a book, and a website. Note that you would have it as an indented, a hanging indent, but these are the basic ways to do a website, to do a citation. So please stop it right here, pause it right here if you need to check your citations. There are lots of rules with citations. If you encounter something you're not sure of, ask, because that's how you learn it for the next time. There are lots of things that I even encounter now that I don't know how to cite, so I have to check the MLA handbook. Use me as a resource, use the MLA handbook as a resource, feel free to use easybib.com as a resource. But always ask the questions. When you ask questions, that's how you learn it for the next time. Ideally, I want you to have perfect citations, so ask, ask, ask. Remember that you have to have a complete works cited page before you begin your research paper.